The sky above Vega 9 was not a sky at all. It was a burnt orange dome smeared with smoke trails and drifting ash, thick with the aftershocks of orbital bombardment. The colony was silent and no voices, no machinery, no birds, just a low, pulsing hum that came from a massive humanoid mech kneeling in the cratered center of the city like a war god struck down mid-prayer. The mech, Fortress 07, was 10 meters tall and looked carved from midnight, plating scorched, left arm gone, reactor bleeding heat. Inside, Captain Vale gritted her teeth and stared through a cracked HUD flickering static. Blood trickled from her temple, mixing with sweat. The smell of burned insulation filled the cockpit. A red alert blinked in the corner of her visor, BioLink stress level, criticalno signal from command reinforcements. ETA 62. Arsarin took a breath, shallow and hot. Her ribs hurt, her thoughts were fraying. And still, she refused to shut down. She was the last one left. Her team was gone, wiped out in the first wave. The Kroll hadn't even fired weapons. They'd simply unleashed a mind strike across the base, scrambling neural links and triggering hysteria. The defense grid failed in under 8 minutes. She survived only because of Orpheon, her AI partner. It isolated her consciousness behind 1,000 firewalls and locked her inside Fortress 07 before the psychic storm hit. Now, she was the only thing standing between Vega 9's black box beacon and a Kroll retrieval team. Aaron whispered hoarsely, Orpheon status. The AI's voice was calm, to calm armor integrity at 17%. Weapon systems, offline. Neurological stability, degrading. A dry laugh escaped her lips. Perfect. And then, she felt him, not through sight or sound, but pressure. Like her skull was shrinking inward. Her memories pulled like threads through a needle. Something cold brushed against her deepest thoughts. Then a voice, deep and smooth, like oil spreading across glass. You held out longer than expected. I'm impressed. You humans usually break faster. Aaron's pupils narrowed. She knew his name from Briefing Scroll Inquisitor, master of mental siege, a psychic predator that didn't interrogate. He unmade. Why not kill me, she said, voice strained. You have the guns. Guns are boring, the voice echoed, but you, you fight. That's rare. The cockpit dimmed. The HUD flickered, then changed. Images bled into her view, her old bunk on Titan Station, the glow of her sister's holopaintings. Then airlock failure. Her sister gasping behind. Glass, Aaron too far to reach. No. She gripped the controls harder. Get out of my head. No, Varkesh said softly. Let's see what your armor is really made of. The mech trembled, as if reacting to her stress. Lights blinked erratically. The cockpit felt smaller, tighter. I will take you apart, memory by memory, he whispered. And when your will finally breaks, I will wear your fear like a crown. Outside, clouds rolled in fast. Green lightning, illuminating the skeletons of ruined buildings. Kroll probes floated silently. Recording, watching, judging. Inside, Aaron bared her teeth. You're not the first monster who's tried. No, Varkesh said, amused. But I will be the last. And with that, the real siege began, not with bullets, but with memories as blades. There was no sound, only pressure. Captain Vale's breath caught as the cockpit dimmed again. This time, unnaturally. It wasn't power failure, it was mental intrusion. Her own thoughts slowed, like ice creeping across a pond. The edges of her mind began freezing. Let's begin, came Varkesh's voice. Calm and predatory, the HUD flared white, then twisted. A hospital room, Earth, 16 years ago. Aaron stood frozen beside a child's bed. Tubes, monitors. Her sister Ilya lay smiling, despite the machines in her chest. You'll protect me, right? Ilya asked. Always, Aaron whispered back. Then the room fractured. A hiss of air, lights flashing. The walls peeled away into cold vacuum. Ilya's body convulsed. Glass burst inward. Aaron screamed. You failed, Varkesh whispered, the first crack in the armor. Aaron fell back in the cockpit, gasping. Real sweat now. Her fingers clawed the metal armrests as alarms beeped in the periphery. Neural link destabilized. Beginning dissociation. Orpheon, she panted. Lock memory access. Encrypt trauma files. Override failed. The AI responded. External force bypassing subcortex filters. You can't hide what you are, Varkesh hissed. Only delay the collapse. Another image slammed. Into Hertha tribunal chamber, brass walls, rows of judges in Terran uniforms. You endangered civilians, disobeyed fleet orders. What do you have to say, Captain Vale? Aaron opened her mouth, but no sound came. The words caught in her throat, just like they had in real life. Her body trembled, not from cold, but shame. You're not a hero. The illusion sneered. You're a liability, dressed in armor. Her vision pulsed red. Blood dripped from her nose. She reached up with a shaking hand and wiped it away. Her reflection in the cracked HUD was pale, eyes wide, hair matted to her skull. The mech groaned beneath her. A deep rumble, like it too was in pain. Outside, the Kroll drones hovered closer, their metallic bodies emitting a pulse that vibrated the air. They weren't attacking, just watching, broadcasting. This isn't torture, Varkesh said gently. This is truth. I am removing the lies you've wrapped around yourself. Erin tried to scream, but her voice didn't come. The mech cockpit warped again, replaced by a burning city Vega 9. Civilians running, fire in every window. She turned and saw herself leaving them behind. Sprinting for her mech. You chose the armor over the people, Varkash whispered. That was the real betrayal. The illusion lingered. That was the worst part. It didn't disappear. It waited for her to believe it. System fracture detected, Orphean said flatly. Cognitive collapse in 6 minutes. Erin's heartbeat thundered in her ears. Her body wanted to shut down. Her brain begged for unconsciousness, sleep, oblivion. But somewhere, beneath the layers of horror, something flared. Anger. You think pain breaks me? She rasped aloud. You think you're the first voice in my head? Her hands gripped the control rods with renewed force. You're just another coward who hides behind illusions, she said through clenched teeth, and I'm still here. Not for long, Varkash replied, but his voice had changed. A hitch, a flicker of frustration. For the first time, he felt resistance. And Erin, she smiled, bloodied and broken but still herself. It wasn't the armor that cracked first. It was the silence, a sharp snap, echoed in the cockpit as Erin's HUD shattered in a spiderweb of light, triggered not by external fire, but by her own neural surge. Her mind was overheating. Sweat rolled into her eyes. The air inside Fortress 07 turned thick, claustrophobic. The Kroll were still circling outside, indifferent to the flames and ruins, watching, waiting, like vultures around a dying lion. But Varkash wasn't waiting. He was digging deeper. The memories didn't break you, he said. Then let's try, you. The world shifted again. Her cockpit folded like origami, pulling her downward. Inward into a room she recognized instantly. Her father's study. Papers scattered. Books burnt. The smelling men oil and gunmetal. In him. You should have been a diplomat. The ghost of her father said, voice gravel and disappointment. Not a soldier. Not like your mother. Erin froze. Her jaw tightened. This memory was buried deep. She had sealed it under lock and encryption, but Varkash had found it anyway. You chased war to prove her wrong. The voice sneered. You're not brave, Erin. You're just trying to be someone else. She shook her head. No, this isn't real. You're not real, Varkash answered from everywhere and nowhere. You're a myth you wrote for yourself, and I'm simply editing it. The room collapsed, 1,000 fragments of failure swirling around her. Then came the worst moment. She saw herself, kneeling, shaking, face hollow, armor gone, vulnerable, broken, and she was speaking. It's easier to pretend, easier to suit up and hide behind orders, but we both know you're not built to last. Erin staggered back, hitting the bulkhead of her real cockpit. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Then the mech groaned again. Fortress 07 shuddered beneath her like it too was rejecting the vision. Sparks rained from the ceiling. The seat restraints jerked as if trying to anchor her to reality. Orphean, she gasped. What's happening? Cognitive dissonance. Peaking, the AI replied. Neural threshold at 92%. Emergency override required or pilot integrity will disintegrate. Recommended? Emotional purge. Severe identity loss. Risk? Hell no, she coughed. I'm not deleting who I am just to survive. But her strength was slipping. Thoughts blurred. She was drowning in past selves, ghosts whispering from every shadow, until a sound pierced through the psychic storm. A violin, soft, fragile, out of place. Her sister's melody. Her eyes widened. That memory hadn't come from Varkash, it came from her. Something real. Her fingers curled tighter around the control sticks. I'm still here, she said, forcing the words through clenched teeth. And I remember who I am. A flicker of light sparked inside the shattered HUD. A line of code recompiled itself. One of her vision feeds blinked back to life. Relinking to conscious core, Orphean announced. Anchor reestablished. Outside, the Kroll drones hovered uneasily. One of them trembled, its signal disrupted. Inside, Erin exhaled slowly. You want to break me, Varkash? She whispered. You'll have to do better than ghosts. I will, the alien hissed back, strained. You will beg to forget. Before I am done, but for the first time, his confidence had cracks to. And through her fractured visor, Erin smiled. The kind of smile that said, try me. Pain she could handle, but the silence inside her soul, that was what he wanted to destroy. Captain Erin Vale sat motionless in the smoking cockpit of Fortress 07. Her breath fogging what was left of her cracked visor. Her body trembled, not from fear but from restraint, from holding the line. You've survived the projections, Varkash whispered, softer now, but your core is already cracking. You're piecing yourself together faster than I can destroy you. Impressive. He sounded almost amused, curious, like a surgeon watching a patient refuse anesthetic. Erin didn't respond. She couldn't waste energy on words. Instead, she leaned back in her seat, eyes closing as she sank into the rhythm of her breathing. The real war wasn't outside. It wasn't even between minds. It was inside her, between despair and discipline. Her fingers twitched, reaching toward a command port at her temple. Her voice, barely above a whisper. Orphean, initiate Mindscape protocol. Sigma confirming, meditative scaffold, zero weapon interface, memory reinforcement protocol. Warning, exposure to unshielded emotion may intensify psychic vulnerability. I know. The world around her shifted not from Varkesh this time, but from her. Erin pulled herself inward, through the storm, through the broken shards, until light, warm, familiar. She stood in a small cabin on Io. A violin played on. An old speaker, her sister's favorite, rain tapped on the window. A younger Erin sat at the table, assembling a model shuttle. Ilya sat across from her, smiling. No war, no armor. Just a moment, she had almost forgotten. Tears welled in Erin's eyes. But they didn't weaken her. They reminded her. This is who I am, she whispered. Not your puppet, not your victim. The illusion didn't shatter. It solidified. It became a fortress. Outside her memory, Varkesh felt the shift. What? What is this? You're using memories as armor. No, Erin said, her voice strong again. As weapons. The cockpit pulsed with light. The HUD stabilized. Fortress 07's systems began rebooting. One by one, her neural links stitched back together not through technology, but through will. Emotional shielding, reinforced. Varkesh recoiled in the ether. She could feel his frustration like heat. You fight with sentiment. With sorrow, it's inefficient, it's human. Outside, the Kroll drone surged, reacting to her energy spike. One veered too close. Reflexively, Erin lifted Fortress 07's broken arm. The mech twitched hand, a shoulder plate ejected with explosive force, smashing into the drone and sending it spiraling into a burning building. Orphean, she said, exhaling. How much power can we reroute to the mental firewall? If you continue tapping emotional reserves, your body will break down within 12 hours. But I'll hold. Varkesh's voice came again, but it had changed. It was strained now. Thin, you are anomalous. No, she said, I'm awake. In her mind, she stood tall in a collapsing world, memories like glowing stones rising around her. Her grief no longer held her down. It held her together, and as Fortress 07 powered back up one system at a time, the Kroll began to circle less like predators, and more like observers, unsure if the prey had become something else, something dangerous. He had tried to drown her in the past, but now she was dragging him into hers. Captain Ehrenvale sat upright inside the smoking cockpit of Fortress 07. Spine straight despite the pain. Her skin prickled with static charge. Her eyes glowed faintly, as the mental firewall surged around her consciousness like molten glass fluid, bright and dangerous. You don't get to hide anymore, she said quietly, her voice echoing through the mech's damaged interface. For the first time, she reached into the link. Varkesh hesitated. She felt it, a stutter in the psychic current, a recoil in the shadows. No, he said, his voice sharpening. You are the canvas. I paint the torment. Then hand me the brush, Erin replied and pushed. The shift was immediate. Suddenly, she stood in an alien place, cold, metallic, endless gray. It wasn't memory, it was Varkesh's mindscape, a realm sculpted by centuries of silence, forged by command and cruelty. But in the center of that bleak mental space stood a boy, wide-eyed, trembling beneath an elder Kroll priest's gaze. His hands were bound, his thoughts were empty. Erin felt the tremble in Varkesh's psyche. This wasn't for her. He never meant her to see this. Get out, he hissed. That is not for you. But Erin didn't attack. She watched. She saw him being trained, broken to strip emotion, to embrace domination, to learn how to unmake other minds. And through all of it, one memory repeated, a small string of glass beads. A sister, lost to silence. You had someone too, Erin whispered, didn't you? The psychic walls around Varkesh cracked. A tremor ran through his presence like a seismic fault line awakening beneath old ice. Stop, he growled. Stop digging. You wanted to break me, you used my sister, my guilt, my shame. Now I see yours, and I don't need to destroy it, just remind you that it's real. Inside Fortress 07, the cockpit lights flared, bright golden aftershock. Of the reverse intrusion, the mech trembled, but stabilized. Orphean's voice returned, altered slightly. Psychic current, reversed. Emotional foothold established. Enemy link, destabilized. Translation. Erin asked aloud. You're inside his armor now. The Kroll Inquisitor's physical body, orbiting aboard his command vessel, convulsed. Commanders around him backed away. His eyes fluttered. His claws trembled. For the first time in 5 decades, Varkesh felt a tear fall down his scaled cheek. He had never known what it meant to remember without power, to mourn without conquest. Erin's fire had ignited something he had thought extinguished, but even that moment of vulnerability turned sharp. He hissed again, like a wounded animal forced back into a corner. You think compassion is a weapon? You will learn that empathy is weakness. But Erin's voice came back steady, unshaken. No, it's why I win. Her mech stood tall in the ruins of Vega 9, now shadowed by the flickering firelight of the destroyed colony. Her body ached. Her armor was still wrecked, but her will now carried two souls, hers, and the memory of the Inquisitors. She had touched the enemy and didn't flinch, and somewhere in the dark, he flinched from her. For the first time in 100 wars, the Inquisitor blinked first. Varkesh stood motionless in the center of his command vessel, claws clenched behind his back, twin hearts pounding with unfamiliar rhythm. His consciousness was still tethered to the humans, anchored to a mind he no longer controlled, and he hated it. Inside Fortress 07's cockpit, Erin Vale exhaled slowly, sweat streaking down her bruised face. Her body trembled, but her eyes were steady. Behind the haze of pain and static, she could feel him wavering. Orphean's voice broke the silence. External psychic link, destabilizing. Subject Varkesh, exhibiting conflict markers. Translation, Erin muttered, he's unraveling. Across the battlefield, the Kroll drones began drifting oddly, movements out of sync, as if the mind guiding them, his mind, was misfiring. Erin leaned forward in her seat, blood drying along her brow. You've dug into 100 minds, haven't you? She said aloud. You've torn through fear, guilt, grief, and used it all as fuel. But you never expected someone to stare back. You do not understand what I am, Varkesh hissed across the psychic link, but the words weren't sharp. They wavered. No, she said softly, I understand exactly what you are. And she pushed again, lightly this time, like touching a bruise. Memory unfolded instantly. A Kroll Academy cell. Varkesh as a child, alone, repeating mantras in the dark. Empathy is weakness. Mercy is betrayal. Pain is the truth. In a corner sat a small crystal bead chain, delicate, out of place. A child's treasure. The memory snapped shut, but not before Erin whispered, you held on to that, even when they tried to strip everything else. In the real world, Varkesh staggered. A gasp left his throat. His advisors turned to him, in shock. He had never shown weakness, never needed a chair. But now he dropped to one knee. The psychic link between them shimmered like stretched glass. Back on Vega 9, Erin's cockpit dimmed as her body began collapsing under stress, but her mind remained upright. Fortress 07's cracked armor emitted soft, defiant hisses of steam, a machine long past its limits still holding. You broke people and called it clarity, she whispered. But all this time, you were just hiding from the one mind you never dared enter. Your own, Varkesh screamed unaloud, but through the tether, a psychic roar of rage and fear. The link spasmed violently. I am Inquisitor Varkesh. I do not feel. I consume. But Erin interrupted him. You remember your sister, don't you? Silence. You buried her under ice and fire. But the beads, you kept them. A thread of what you were. A long beat then. Something incredible. A psychic tremor radiated from Varkesh, not an attack. A signal. Something in his presence collapsed. Inside Fortress 07, the atmosphere shifted. Erin's muscles loosened. The humming in her skull dulled to a faint vibration. Orphean said, enemy, mental intrusion, disengaged. Connection terminated. Erin blinked. He let go. Affirmative. No external psychic pressure detected. You are alone. She slumped back in her chair, blinking up at the smoke-stained canopy. She didn't win with weapons, didn't shatter his mind with force. She had done the one thing no Kroll ever anticipated. She understood him, and in doing so, she had touched something so foreign, so forbidden, it broke his grasp. Compassion. The battlefield froze, yet it pulsed like a held breath. Neither side fired. Not the humans behind the scarred ridge lines, their cannons loaded, waiting on broken knees. Not the Kroll formations drifting above. Silent information, powered by One's iron will. The psychic tether was gone, but something deeper remained, in unspoken command. A challenge not answered with weapons, but with presence. Erin Vale stood outside Fortress 07 now, her body shaking, one hand braced against the still mech. She had removed her helmet. Let the enemy see her face. Let everyone see it, bloodied, bruised, still human. In the command center of the 7th Terran Armored Division, Commander Thorne stood watching the feed, eyes narrowed. She's outside the line, he muttered. She's either trying to die on her feet, or pull off a miracle. Sir, orders hold. Hold. She bought us silence. Let's not ruin it by yelling. Above, the Kroll command ship drifted lower in orbit, casting a long crescent shadow over the ruined ridge. Varkesh watched her through the hull's biocrystal interface. She made no plea, no threats. She simply stood, fragile and luminous in the dust-smeared light of Vega 9's dawn. She is forcing choice upon us, murmured his second-in-command. Eilish, this ... is not war, it's invitation. Varkesh said nothing. He paced slowly, deliberately, his claws no longer gripped command spires, his mind no longer drilling into hers. The beads lay before him, and with them, the memory. His sister's voice. A soft memory, a lullaby. Before the war training began, even monsters can dream. Varek, they just need a place to lay down their claws. The Inquisitor turned his burning eyes back toward Vega 9, toward her, back on the planet. Orphean hummed low inside Fortress 07's remains. Telemetry confirms, all Kroll units are awaiting higher order input. They will not fire unless commanded. Erin didn't move. Her knees threatened to buckle again, but she wouldn't show weakness. Not now. Not when the moment teetered on the edge. The sun cracked through the clouds, bathing the field in faint orange. It revealed bodies, machines, smoke, silence. Orphean, she whispered, still with me, always. Then let's finish this. She stepped forward just one pace. Into open ground, into the quiet between worlds, and she raised her voice. He came to tear down a myth. She shouted upward, but you made one instead. You tried to strip me bare, but I saw you, Varkesh. You're not a god. You're a prisoner of your own design, but now you get to choose. The ground didn't tremble. The sky didn't roar. Instead, the silence deepened, sacred, electric, in orbit. Varkesh closed his eyes. He remembered the beads in his hand, and he let them go. The command link dissolved. Not just his connection to Urbit, to the battlefield, to the war. A signal blinked across every Kroll unit. One directive. A single word, withdraw. And across Vega 9, alien ships halted there. Drift and began to rise. Commander Thorne's voice echoed through human channels. Double quotes. What the hell, sir? They're retreating. She did it. By all the stars, she did it. Erin's legs gave. She dropped to one knee, but she was smiling. Not with victory, but with something rarer. Understanding. The war didn't end with an explosion. It ended in a breath, a golden breath. The first light of Vega 9's dawn broke over the torn battlefield, washing the land in molten orange. Broken mechs still smoldered. Craters still steamed. Bodies still lay silent witnesses to what had happened here. But above it, all the sky was clear. The Kroll ships were gone. Not destroyed. Not captured. Gone. Retreated. Released. Aeryn. Vale stood in the heart of the war zone, knees coated in ash, her left arm in a makeshift sling, her mech shattered behind her. But her gaze was strong. She'd knelt, not to surrender, but to bury something. In the dust. She had pressed the last fragment of Fortress 07's chestplate into the soil, marking the spot where everything changed. Not a monument to victory, a testament to choice. Commander Thorne and the Terran reinforcements arrived minutes later, dropships screaming overhead, scattering dust in concentric waves around her. Soldiers spilled out, weapons drawn, only to find silence. And her. One soldier approached, wide-eyed, whispering over his comes. Sir, she's here, alive, standing. Thorne stepped out last. His uniform was spotless, but his voice cracked as he walked toward her. He stopped 2 paces away. For a long moment, he just looked. You didn't fire a final shot. Didn't need to, Erin whispered, her voice hoarse. You didn't win with force. He didn't lose to it either. A hush swept over the field. Troops began to lower their weapons. Medics paused their rushing feet. Engineers paused their scans, because they were all watching her. Orphean's voice, long silent, hummed inside what remained of her neural link. Varkesh is gone. No residual psychic signature remains. No retaliation, just quiet. As she closed her eyes, for the first time in weeks, quiet didn't feel like danger. It felt like peace. Suddenly, a glint of motion in the sky. Not enemy ships, just one small drone, descending slowly, Kroll-made, but unarmed. Its sleek body glimmered with plasma tattoos. It stopped just meters from her, and gently lowered something into the dust. A silver chain. Beads strangely shaped. Alien in design, but unmistakably handcrafted. Orphean scanned it instantly. Memory totem, identity bound. Kroll, ancestral artifact, symbol of grief, and forgiveness. She stepped forward and picked it up. It was warm. Later in the briefing chambers, back on the Terran flagship Resolute, leaders gathered. Strategists barked. Analysts demanded footage. Politicians rehearsed spin. But when Erin Vale entered, the room fell still. She placed the bead chain on the central holotable and spoke just one sentence. Sometimes, you win not by breaking enemies, by showing them what's left of themselves. No one argued. No one dared. Because out there she had done what no fleet ever had. Not just saved a planet, not just halted an armada, she had broken a cycle of endless retaliation by letting herself be seen wounded, shattered, human,